I completely forgot to film the peppers. Welcome back to our channel, Hume's Little Homestead. Today, I am doing our garden tour for July. Little disclaimer, I have some weeds. As much as I wish I was taking you on like a perfectly manicured garden tour, this is real life. This is what my garden is looking like, and I wanted to show it. I want everyone to keep in mind that we're all in different zones. So I've been seeing from a lot of my other like homesteading friends channels that their season got to start in like May or maybe even in April. They're already harvesting a lot of stuff. We've only been able to harvest a few squash so far, but that's okay. Our season will go into September. So I'm feeling confident that we will get a pretty good harvest this year. So keep those things in mind, and I hope that you enjoy all of the beautiful things that we're growing. And if you see something that you would like to grow, comment down below if you're gonna try something for next year, or if you are trying something currently the same or similar, or what your favorite garden varieties have been so far this year. All right, let's go. Before we go into the actual garden, I wanted to show you something I found when I was doing this project, and I'm not completely finished with this project yet, but this is going to be our hollyhock. I'm going to put hollyhocks in this container here. Down here is where we put, so we, at the end of the season, we grabbed all of the dead and old materials and piled them here, and then we burned them so that in case there was any insect eggs or anything like that, that they would be taken care of. And I am seeing there are some weeds, but here's some zinnias. A bunch of volunteer plants just grew in this spot that we burned. These are probably Kentucky Wonder Beans. That's what I grew last year, and they're everywhere. And marigolds. And what was fascinating to me the most is I saw a ton of basil. Look how pretty these little basil plants are. So I'm not sure how well these things will grow because I haven't been watering them, but these are just volunteer plants. So it's kind of neat when you garden year after year, you'll start getting some volunteer plants. The honeysuckle vines aren't blooming at the moment. I don't know why. I thought they were supposed to bloom all season. And they're also getting some yellow leaves. I did just barely fertilize with fish emulsion fertilizer. So we'll see. I was reading that Epsom salt can help with yellowing leaves. I'm not sure if it works for honeysuckle, but it is looking bushy and beautiful, and it is about to reach the top of the archway, which I am really excited about. I was thinking if I had taken chicken wire that these might vine up better. As you can see, it has trouble vining in between these cattle panels. So when it dies back this season, I might wrap this in chicken wire as well so that it can fill in these spaces a little more. I've just noticed that it's struggled to fill in spaces. Here's the weed part. So I've left these marigolds. I'm gonna pull this really fast. Ow, it's one of those goat heads or bull heads, whatever you call them. They are awful weeds. And they hurt so bad when you step on them. Anyway, we have a bunch of marigolds here. Marigolds are actually nitrogen fixing, so I decided to go ahead and leave them. And this was a volunteer sunflower that grew, and I decided to leave it. It's kind of on the short side. One of our okra plants here. This is my oregano plant. I've been debating on if I should cut it back. It flowered, and now I think I want to trim it back, trim all the flowers off, and see if it will bush up more. It kind of split. So we'll see. And I definitely need to weed around it because it's competing for nutrients right now. Another okra. And then this is parsley from last year. I left it to see if it would go to seed, and I think I want to pull it out. I don't know though, these all look like a bunch of little parsley seeds. Then we have a volunteer tomato that I decided to go ahead and leave. This parsley plant is beautiful, but like I said, I was letting it complete its life cycle in this second year. So nothing to harvest off it except seeds. And some more okra at the end. And another volunteer sunflower. Starting here, I had some volunteer basil. It looks a little different. I had a couple different kinds of basil in the garden last year, so I think that it cross-pollinated. But it smells really good. It's definitely basil, so I decided to leave it. And then we have our bean experiment here. And I'm not sure about this row. It's just not doing as well as some of the other rows in the garden. So I think that, and I've fertilized it now, and I don't know. So at the end here is a golden wax bean. And it's a little on the small side, but it actually looks green and healthy, so we'll see if it produces. And then we have these two. It's either Burpee's Stringless or Burpee's Tender Pod. I'm thinking it's Burpee's Stringless because Burpee's Tender Pod was supposed to be right here. So these do have some beans on them. So our bean experiment, and this got blown over in the wind yesterday, which I was really sad about because it was looking really healthy. So I'll need to, next year, or this year, I can still do it, is put some sticks down to help them. But it's getting some beans. Both of these are. And I have never been successful at growing beans. I didn't realize they put off these pretty little flowers before they actually make a bean. It makes sense. Oh, there's another one under there. It was hiding. That must be the yellow one. So, oh, look at that cute little frog. Definitely like to see that in the garden. So yes, these are putting off pretty beans, cute little flowers, and I'm excited about it. But they definitely need a stick or something to help them out. Our winds just get so crazy here. And here is Dragon Tongue. The Dragon Tongue from Baker's Creek. And it's struggling a bit, but I don't know. We'll see. And here I have a little gnome, and this nasturtium just never did well. This row is just really struggling. And a little gnome. This is a sunflower that I planted. It's still very tiny. Now we have butternut squash right here. There's some bird poop on there. Which I am kind of glad the birds are visiting the garden. It kind of helps keep bugs down. So this is all butternut squash. And then here is a 4 o'clock and a weed. And right here we have Chinese red noodle beans. And they started taking off, which I'm excited about. Now, I replanted this row. This was supposed to be my cucamelons, and everything I've planted here this year has just done so bad. I think something is wrong with the ground right here because it is just not doing well. So, my kids planted morning glories for Father's Day, and they were in these little pots. And I think the morning glories are actually gonna grow. So there's my 3 oldest kids, Caden, Levi, and Haley, planted these for Father's Day, and I was reluctant to put morning glories in the garden because I know they can take over and be a little bit pushy in the garden, but I went ahead and put them in there. So I put morning glories on that other side, and down here I have planted seeds. This one that is popping up is I put a blue Hubbard squash. So it's supposed to be a winter squash. I've never seen a blue Hubbard squash. I'm excited. And then, so I have blue Hubbard squash to the middle, and then I have what's called sweet meat squash. So I'm hoping that they will germinate and do better than the cucamelons did right here. I didn't realize that the cucamelons were going to be so finicky, but they're just not doing well. And this is honeydew. And it was looking super yellow before I put that fish fertilizer down. And we also stopped watering twice a day. We were watering the garden twice a day. So now we're watering once a day. Ooh, look, another one came up. So I've been kind of reseeding just to see if I could get something to grow here. And it looks like these leaves have really greened up and they're doing so much better. And then I have a bunch of volunteer chamomile. I had a ton of chamomile over here, and it was turning yellow, and I think its season was just done. As you can see, that's chamomile. So I went ahead and pulled out the chamomile, and I need to pull up all that grass. I think the grass is pulling nutrients away from this row. I think that's what's causing some of the problems here in this row. But all of this is a bunch of tiny little chamomile seedlings, so I kind of want to leave them. I've been pulling them when they get up to here. I pull them because I don't know if they'll be good at the base of these plants. And I finally got these plants greened up, so I'm hoping that they will just take off now that we're in kind of the best part of the growing season. July is when we get the least amount of wind, and it's when we start getting some monsoon, and it's just the best part of our garden season is like right now, and we'll probably start getting some tomatoes very soon. So at the end of this row I have a zinnia, and this is either cantaloupe or honeydew. I was really sad that the honeydew wasn't coming up on this side, so I did reseed some cantaloupe because I only had one cantaloupe plant grow here. So I reseeded some cantaloupe, and I think the very end might be a honeydew, but it might be all cantaloupe. I don't know. Either way, this archway here on the end, let me get back up and get a shot of it. This archway here is going to be honeydew and cantaloupe. I really love how these archways are turning out. And look at this cantaloupe plant. It's just a regular cantaloupe plant. I got the seeds from my church, and every year our church does a little kind of like a seed swap. You pay $5 and get this huge bag of seeds. So look, here is the first big cantaloupe that's growing. And I want to be careful. I don't want that to knock off the vine. And it's kind of long and skinny. I thought it was gonna be round, but there's a whole bunch of them, a whole bunch of baby cantaloupes. I made a YouTube short video yesterday of our cantaloupes and our Kajari melons. And it's just looking like there's gonna be a lot of cantaloupe this year, which is Ryan's favorite fruit, I think, from the garden. I think he also likes watermelon a lot. So I'm really excited that this plant is doing well and it's climbing well. I haven't had to tie it up. It's just doing really well. So the next thing is a beautiful zinnia. I just love how these look, and the bees love them too. So I like to tuck them in to the garden, and this one is putting off a bunch of, it's gonna put off a lot of flowers, so I'm really excited about that. Last year, my zinnias got really, really tall, like 5 to 6 feet tall. So I'm curious, this year my flowers seem short, but they're putting off a lot of blooms. So I don't know, it's interesting. Next we have some English cucumber, and these are called Chelsea's Prize. And this one, it's looking a lot better since I fertilized it, but it was really, really yellow. So that fish fertilizer really is helping. See, these newer leaves are more green and not so yellow. And actually the plant is looking like it's gonna be okay and climb up. These other plants, I just barely tucked it there so you can't see how big and pretty the leaves are, but these other plants were always doing really good. And I reseeded them as well because I was just getting nervous that none of my plants were gonna grow. So we'll see. I tucked a sunflower here. This was growing in another spot and I just plucked it and put it here, and it looks like it's gonna transplant okay. Next is something I'm very excited about in the garden is the Chinese red noodle bean. And they put off these beautiful purple flowers. I don't see any open right now. I have a picture I can put in. So they put off these beautiful purple flowers. Now they've turned yellow. Flowers, now they've turned yellow. And then the flowers turn into these really neat beans. These beans are so cool. They just grow right up the archways. And let me show you down here, a couple have started forming and they're very long and reddish purplish. And I was really excited to try these, and I'm super happy because on the package it says you might get a low germination rate. So I planted, as you can see, I planted some extras because I was worried about that. But it looks like we're gonna have plenty. And I was reading about seed saving last night, so I am excited to share what I learned this year about seed saving. Let me show you this row, back up and show you this archway. This is the Chinese red noodle bean archway. You can see them starting. I'm really short, so I have trouble getting them to twist around. When they get about right here, they start trying to keep going up. So I have to help them come around so that they can come back down. So I planted Chinese red noodle beans on both sides. And let me show you this other archway that I just talked about. This is the English cucumbers. Oh, I forgot. I also tucked in some dill right there. It's my very first time getting dill to even grow. So if you have any tips on growing dill, I'm all ears because, I don't know, it looks a little spindly to me. I thought it was going to be more bushy. Does it need more space? Did I put it in too crowded of a spot? What am I doing wrong? I was just happy that it grew because every time I get dill to grow, it grows about this tall and then it withers away and dies. So this dill is actually growing, so I'm very proud of this little plant. Good job, little plant. But this was supposed to be cucumbers and cucamelons, but the cucamelons just did not sprout for me. Well, they sprouted, they got really short, and then they just died. And like I said, I'm not sure if it's the spot because everything I plant there has a hard time. So now it's, instead of cucamelons, it's blue Hubbard squash and sweet meat squash along with the cucumbers. Now, because I'm doing all of these cucurbit members in the cucurbit family, I do have to look for squash bugs every single day very diligently. But I think now that I fertilize it, I think they're gonna fill up that archway and look pretty. Now we come to one of my favorite squashes that I discovered a couple years ago. It's called butternut squash. Look how pretty. It has some little baby squash all over it. And these, I like them. They're kind of a sweeter flavor. You can even make almost like pumpkin pie, but it's butternut squash pie. And I just really like this squash. It's a really yummy squash. And I think it has beautiful leaves and it just grows so well. Here is the butternut squash archway. And I did it on both. Like I said, that side hasn't done as well. So I'm gonna have to do some amending of my soil, I believe. Next to the okra are these white eggplants that I bought in Arkansas. And if you remember, they were looking pretty sad. They look dusty. We had a rainstorm and the leaves got dusty, but they're starting to put off some flowers. I think they're gonna fruit. And I think they're gonna be okay. And it's neat that I was able to bring them from Arkansas. And some more of that burgundy okra. On this side I put Clemson spineless because I wasn't sure if I overcrowded my Clemson spineless over there. So hopefully this year we'll get some okra. Down this row I put some flowers, but they did not do well. I have a couple hollyhocks, but I just learned that hollyhocks kind of come back every year. So I'm actually not sure I even want them in this spot, so it's okay that they kind of died off. They're doing okay. This one here is looking really pretty. And it's at the very end of the row, so I do like that. I had a ton of volunteer marigolds and a volunteer tomato. I decided to let this tomato stay. I might transplant this over to the tomato fortress, which I will show you. Some of them are doing fabulous and some aren't doing so well. So I will show you all of that in a minute. This is another volunteer basil, and this looks more like the classic basil that you grow, the sweet basil. It smells so good. So I'm pretty sure this one is a true to type seed that planted itself. Now we have the gray zucchini. Ooh, and our favorite garden visitor, a little bee. Now, so this is a female flower. If you look here, it's got a fruit at the base of it. It's got a zucchini started. And this is a male flower because it has no fruit at the base of it. See how it just has like a stem? So when the pollinator gets the male flower pollen and female flower pollen, that's what seeds are created in this. So you can see, because I have gray zucchini here and I have acorn squash here, these two will very easily be pollinated by the pollinators and cross-pollinated. That is how you get the weird looking squash. If I were to save seed from any of these plants, really any of these plants in this garden, without taping off these flowers, which I will do a whole separate video on that because that is something I'm really learning about this year. If I didn't tape off these flowers, the female flower is what really needs to be taped off if you don't want these seeds to be impure. If you want pure seed, you have to make sure and get this, because right now that has already been pollinated, so those seeds are already genetically mutated, I guess, so to speak, to what they're going to be. But this has some very good examples of the male flower. So male flower and female flower. So here's the gray zucchini. I love these variegated leaves. I think they are so neat. It's my first time growing gray zucchini. Acorn squash was one of my favorites last year. And this is interesting to me. This acorn squash has more pointy leaves than this one. See how these tips are more rounded? But they are from the same seed pack. So I'm not sure why that would be, because I was like, man, that looks like a different type of squash. But as I'm looking, we've got the acorn squash shape on both of these. So that's the acorn or scallop squash. But still very interesting, and you can even see this is a more bright green and that's a more dark green. And that's just how they grew. There's nothing wrong with their soil. This row is doing really well. So each leaf is different, which is really neat. And let's take a look at this acorn squash flower. I think squash have the prettiest flowers. It's just fascinating. Now I've got a volunteer zinnia, and my gnome is buried under there, and a sunflower. And that's a little too crowded, but I thought the sunflower would grow up and the zinnia would stay at the base of it, so we'll see what happens. And this is our bush baby watermelon, sugar bush baby. And there are a bunch of little watermelon babies on these plants. And they're so cute. I'm gonna come to the other side to show you that. I just wanted to show this really fast. Here's some more examples of male flowers. So the male flower has this long stem so that it can reach out, and the female flowers are what develop on the fruit. So this one hasn't opened yet. So if I want to save the seed of this, I need to keep it closed. I haven't made any of my squash or melons for saving seed. So like I said, I'm going to do that on another video. That's just so pretty. At the moment, this is my favorite section of the garden. I know I have hopes that this side will fill out as nicely as this side has. So I'm not worried. This is just so beautiful to walk in. I am so grateful to everyone who gave me the archway idea for the garden, and I'm definitely going to continue doing this type of gardening. It is really beautiful and really easy to keep the plants healthy and to find all the bugs. So picking off the bugs has been pretty easy this year. So again, here's that bush sugar baby watermelon, and these are a bush variety, but as you can see, they are vining up, so I am able to trellis them a little bit. I was wondering how that was gonna go. And this plant here gets the prize for having the largest fruit right now. And every day it just grows so much. I'm just amazed. So it's about the size of my hand right now. Very neat. And then here is another sunflower. I don't remember which type this is. It's a fluffy one, so I will put on the screen exactly what kind I planted here. And I really, really wanted to see how that was gonna look. Now here is the pink painted lady beans. And they have just been such a joy to grow. So, so pretty this year. So this archway is the pink painted lady beans. And they are the plants that grew the fastest and really filled up their archway the fastest. Not far behind is the spaghetti squash. Now, I have been learning some ways to process this. I'll share when it comes time for harvesting, because spaghetti squash isn't my favorite squash to work with. It's very hard shelled. Right now it's soft because it's not fully ripe, but it has a very hard shell once it's cured, so it will be great in a survival situation. it will last for months without going rotten or bad. But it just really takes a long time to cook and process. But a friend gave me a tip that you can put the whole thing in the microwave for a couple minutes. I can't remember exactly the time, and it will soften up that fruit, and then you can finish cooking it in the oven just like you would. So, but it has beautiful flowers. And my brother and his wife really love to make a meal with spaghetti squash. So I went ahead and planted a full archway of spaghetti squash. And here's how the archway is looking. Winter squash is fairly new to me. I didn't really know about winter squash until a couple of years ago when I planted it for the first time, and it vined out like a pumpkin, and I was like, what is this? I've always just grown the bush varieties. That's just what my family did. So it has been a joy to find a really interesting way to grow the winter squash. I really like growing it on these trellises and on these archways especially. This is my first year to do archways with my vegetables. Here we have Kajari melons, and they look so interesting. They are growing so fast. Every day I come out here and they're like growing by the foot. It's really amazing. And look how many flowers are on there, male and female, and I think it's just going to be a very prolific plant. Here's what the melons look like so far. Aren't those so neat? I'm just amazed. And they're everywhere. Everywhere I look, there's a baby melon. And it's just fabulous. Very, very neat. And we can't wait to try them. We really hope we like them. If not, we'll probably be very disappointed because these are a neat plant. Oh, there's another baby melon on that. So there's your female flower with the baby melon attached. Oh, there's another one. There's just so many. I was worried because they got a slow start, especially compared to this spaghetti squash that's right next to them. These took a while to even get that tall, but now that they've gotten this tall, I feel like they grow so fast every day. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they make it to right here today. On this side is the honey melon, and I will put the full name up on the screen. It's an Indian melon from India, and I don't know how to say the name. But it is also looking really good, and I've seen a couple, not as many as the Kajaris, but I've seen a couple baby melons. Let me see if I can find one here. Found one. Just a furry little baby melon. They're about the same height as the Kajari melons. So that is the Kajari and honey melon archway. Down here I planted some more of that wasabi radish because I was on my trip when the wasabi radish was ready to harvest and I never got to try it. So I thought maybe I'll try and plant it in a little bit of a shady spot and see how it does. And it's doing pretty well. And then I really love radishes, so I planted some more along the way when I saw that those were doing okay. And there is another volunteer basil here. I'll show you another of these squash flowers. Just such beautiful bright yellow flowers. This makes you so happy. And this is the pink painted lady runner bean as well. And then back here, the last thing I will show in this corner, actually I have a couple things to show, but the last archway to show is the Yamata white watermelon. And this has a lot of baby watermelons on it, which I am excited about. And that's how they look. So cute and so neat. I'm going to have to find a way, because these are supposed to be large watermelons, to keep them attached well to the vine for them to ripen up all the way. But I think it's going to be great. So this first archway here is watermelon. And it's starting to get pretty tall on that side. I'm not sure how tall these bush varieties are going to get, but they are using the trellis. So that's good to know. You can go ahead and trellis them even though they are a bush variety. And here is the humble crookneck squash, one of my favorite squashes to grow, but pretty common. Pretty much everyone has that kind of squash in their garden, but the plant is just looking beautiful. And these eggplants here, it's the other white eggplants from Arkansas that I purchased. These ones are looking a little bit healthier than those ones over there, and I'm excited to see if they'll produce anything for us. This was the very first fruit in the garden, and it's getting large fast. This is spaghetti squash. Now, these chocolate cherry sunflowers. The first one opened up yesterday. I posted it to our Facebook page, and it's really, really pretty. I am really happy with these seeds. They are shorter than I thought. I thought they were gonna get taller. That could be my own soil, but I don't know. They're all kind of the same height, so I'm thinking maybe they were meant to be shorter. But let me just show that bloom one more time. So pretty. I love that color. This one has a lot of little flowers on it. That's what I was saying. My flowers seem to be shorter, but they have a lot of blooms. Maybe there's a reason for that. I'm not sure. The onions and asparagus are looking great. They need to be watered today, but they are looking really, really, really good. This asparagus is as tall as me almost. Interesting. I wasn't expecting it to get this bushy this year, but I'm really happy that it did. And then I've got my dwarf variety of a blackberry bush here. And my blackberry bush from last year. I went ahead and put 2 of these poles in, and I just used yarn to tie these up. We did have a windstorm yesterday, and I can tell that. Let me fix that real fast. Here it is. So I just used 2 of those poles and some yarn to tie up the branches. And I'm really excited with how this is looking. I planted lemon balm right here. It's looking a little on the sad side at the moment, but I think it will pull through and be okay. And I'm really excited to show you this watermelon. This is not watermelon. This is a strawberry. It is sending off runners. So not all the strawberries did well in the strawberry bed, but the few that have remained seem very healthy and are sending off runners, which that was my goal for this year. I wanted the strawberries to send off runners in here. And I was really bummed that I didn't amend the soil or get garden soil to put in this box, but maybe if this one will send off runners, maybe I can get this whole box to fill up with strawberries eventually. It's just taking a little longer than I anticipated. This is my lavender and blueberry bed. I was so happy this lavender actually pulled through, and it is sending off some babies. And this was a volunteer marigold, and I didn't have the heart to pull it out. I won't let it drop any seed in here, so I'm gonna pick the flowers off of it as it grows, because it will take over this bed real quick. And I may eventually end up pulling it out. But for the moment, I just wanted something to be growing in here. This is the lavender I got from Walmart. It's looking a little sad, but I think it'll be okay. And the blueberry bush is looking really, really pretty. I'm really happy. I was reading about what I need to do in the fall for this, and I'm gonna add sphagnum peat moss, and you'll do that once a year. But at the moment, it's looking pretty. It's looking a little bit yellowish, but I'm not too concerned. So what that means is it might not be absorbing, I think it was calcium. It might not be absorbing calcium, but Other than that, it looks pretty healthy, so I kind of want to leave it alone at the moment. If in a week from now, if it gets more yellow than this, then I will do the peat moss right now, and I won't wait till the fall. I have a cottonwood tree here that I plucked up from the garden, and a couple other trees that I'm not sure. It might be aspen. I'm not sure what they are. They're kind of small. And then I wasn't sure if this was a weed or a tree, but I went ahead and planted it in this spot too, because I didn't want it to die. I've got some herbs tucked over here. This is my sweet marjoram plant. Some more lemon balm. This plant actually looks a lot better than it did, so that's why I have hope for the other one. I have lemon thyme here. This, oh, I love how lemon thyme smells. And peppermint. And then these are all going to be going in that planter box that Ryan built for me. And I think I finally identified this one, what Haley grew me. I think it's St. John's wort. And I'm really happy because I didn't plant any St. John's wort. So I looked at pictures and I do think that that is St. John's wort. So I'm really happy. So I've got rosemary, St. John's wort, sage, and thyme to plant in that planter box. And these are hollyhocks right here. That'll go in my hollyhock spot. And then I've got red raspberries here from my mother-in-law. Orange mint from Arkansas. Look how pretty this is doing. My friend told me that mint actually discourages mice and rodents, which I hate to tell you guys, but we have had a bit of a problem with rodents in our chicken coop this year. So if this is true, I'm so happy I planted this year because I just want it to take over. And I think that it will be okay growing under the raspberry bushes, because raspberry bushes are supposed to grow very fast as well. So this is red raspberry and red raspberry. And then I've got pineapple sage. This was from Arkansas and it's doing really well. I'm thinking I want to trim it back. Let me know in the comments if that's a good idea or a bad idea. Just to trim the tops off a little to see if it will get bushier. Then I have feverfew herb right here. And foxglove. And then look at the rhubarb plant. I know I've told you guys I'm going to be digging up this because I want my delphinium to have the spotlight over here. But I'm going to dig this rhubarb plant up in the fall and put it right there by that wood pile. And this is the delphinium. Look how pretty this is. My grandma bought me this. She came to visit after we lost the twins. She came and stayed for a week. Maybe it was 2 weeks. She stayed for a while. And we went shopping and she bought me a couple plants, and this was one of them, and I'm really happy to see that it's putting off a second bloom for the season. And I have 2 trees tucked back here that still need to be planted, a maple and a catalpa, and I'm pretty sure I'm giving this catalpa to my sister-in-law. I don't think my mother-in-law wants a tree, but that's gonna be for my sister-in-law. Here is the bleeding heart bush, and it's doing pretty well. It's really small still, on the small side, but I'm just hoping that it's getting its roots nice and established this season. Hopefully next season it will get large. And then I went ahead and put my columbine right here. The plant that I planted here, that was a blue flower, I was going to dig up and plant under the apple tree with the snapdragons, but I couldn't find the bulb. You can see I dug and dug and dug, and I couldn't find it. I think that mice ate it, unfortunately. So another reason for that mint. I hope that really... This archway, I have planted trumpet vines for the hummingbirds, and they're actually doing pretty well. I planted these from seeds, so they're really little right now. But I've got 2 on this side and 1 on this side. And I'm hoping those will fill up this archway. I put marshmallow in the flower garden. And I have to show you this yarrow. Look at this beautiful pink color. It's like a pale pink. And it looks like these are going to be purple. So there were a couple different colors. That one looks like it might be white. No, I think that's going to be that pale pink. That's definitely going to be a pale purple, pale pink. And I planted another plant here. We'll see But isn't that gorgeous? That is pretty. I cut back my snapdragons to see if they'll bloom again. I think they're going to. This is the yellow one. That was the really pretty orange one that I'm definitely going to get seed from. I love orange flowers in a garden. I don't know. You'll see. I have a lot of orange in my flower garden. This is our apple tree, and it is doing really well. This is the biggest it's gotten so far over these last couple of years. And these look like they're either going to be a red color or an orange color, these lilies. None of these other lilies look like they're going to bloom this year. I don't know, we'll see. Maybe they'll surprise me. These ones bloomed while I was on my trip. They were the white ones. So I was hoping they were all going to bloom at the same time, but looks like that's not going to happen. In the middle here is canna flowers, canna mix. And all of these are gladiolas. And these orange gladiolas are so pretty. We have some red ones and yellow ones with some like red inside. These are the tequila sunrise snapdragons that I planted. And some more tequila sunrise right there. And this is a different variety of apple tree, and it's doing really well as well. Let's come over to the tomato fortress, and I will show you what I'm talking about. Some of them are just doing amazing, and some are a little sad. But I was reading about Epsom salt, and I added some Epsom salt to see if I could help these little yellow ones do better. I don't know. I haven't seen any aphids or anything on them, so the one thing I did differently this year is I didn't give, each year I always give a little marigold for a companion plant. Because as I mentioned earlier, marigolds are nitrogen fixing for the soil. Tomatoes need a lot of nitrogen to do well. So I'm thinking that's the only thing I did different was I forgot to put a marigold. So I went ahead and plucked up marigolds and tucked them all along this bed. And I'm hoping that will help the situation. I completely lost the Cherokee purple one, which I am really, really sad about. I did put some seed down. I know it's very late in the season to be starting a tomato plant, but I thought, why not? I have extra seed. So I planted some seeds down in there. So we'll see if anything grows. Yellow brandywine. This one looks beautiful. Chadwick cherry. It actually looks better than yesterday. I know that's hard to believe because it looks pretty sad and yellow, but it is looking better after adding the Epsom salt. This is San Marzano. And I have one that's doing poorly and one that's doing fabulous. So normally I plant 2 of every kind just in case this happens, and I'm really bummed that I didn't do that with all of these plants this year. I only did that with the San Marzano this year because I wanted a lot of canning tomatoes. And as I'm looking at the tomato fortress, I could have spaced my tomatoes a little closer. I put them really far apart to be on the safe side this year. But my vision was to have all these tomatoes just making this wall. And that's not what happened. So next year I'm definitely going to keep the tomatoes here. And I'm going to do some amending of this section in the fall. And I'm going to plant my tomatoes a little closer next year. So this is a yellow pear. And it is the star of the show at the moment. And that's my kids' favorite, so they will be excited about that. Black cherry is on the corner. They were also getting overwatered, so I moved their water spigot farther away from them. And I also put them on manual watering only. So if it rains, we don't water them. The blue cream berry is looking really beautiful too. And I will go inside, but I saw some tomatoes on this one. There's a little one. So I was really excited about that. Brad's Atomic Grape, I'm so sad. This is one of them that I wish that I had done too. It might make a comeback, but it is looking really sad right now. So I'm very, very sad about that. Matt's Wild Cherry is a delicious tomato and it is doing great. These always seem to do well in our gardens. I have a couple of zinnias here. Look at that. So pretty. And these yellow zinnias make me so happy every time I round this corner. Look how pretty they are. There's 4 o'clock. And this is a green zebra tomato, and I just planted it, and it is very happy in its section. This section must be very good soil because it's like doing fabulous. And then I'm not sure if this is a zinnia or not, but it has put off the prettiest pink flowers. Looks like that one's going to seed. I don't know if I want it to drop its seed. Here is Martian Giant. All of the tomatoes on this side look really good, which I believe is because it was getting drained, the drainage. The water was draining off of them, so they weren't getting overwatered. I think that is the main culprit of what happened to those tomatoes over there. But this side looks great. So this is the Sweetie tomato. Beefsteak. Pink Brandywine, and Black Krim. I am really happy the Black Krim looks this good, especially since the Cherokee Purple didn't pull through, because Black Krim and Cherokee Purple are my favorites. They just have beautiful dark purple tomatoes and I love them. So what I'm gonna do, if my experiment doesn't work over there, is I'm gonna just take one of these branches and try and root it. And I'll do that for other spots of the tomatoes that have died and replant tomatoes there to see if I can at least get some tomatoes in the sections that have kind of died. I'm always curious as to which one's going to produce the first tomatoes, and I think it's going to be the blue creamberry because I saw this cluster and see how it's actually getting dark. A dark purple color. I think this one's gonna be the first one. So here's how the tomato fortress looks. There's some corn in here. This was our pig pen, and so the corn got planted with the pig poop. I thought about doing a cornfield in here, but I didn't know if it would do very well. It's proven me wrong. So I've got sunflowers and pumpkins along this back row. And they're doing pretty good. This is the Big Moon pumpkin, so it's supposed to be those giant pumpkins. We'll see. I haven't had much luck with pumpkins since moving here. We'll see what happens though. And a sunflower right there. For my birthday, my grandma bought me grapevines, and they have grown so much since we planted them. And they are just doing so good. I'm really excited about this. So this is a purple grape. And this here is a white grape. And every day they just have grown taller and taller. Similar to the squash, they're just really growing super fast right now. Let me back up and show how this bridge and archway looks. And eventually it should fill up the whole archway and look beautiful. Next, we're moving on to trees. Here is the catalpa tree. Some bugs have gotten to it, but it seems to be pulling through and doing okay. My maple tree from Kentucky is doing really well, and I was able to straighten out the stem by slowly tightening this a bit each day, and I straightened it out. It was really crooked for a while because of a windstorm that we got. So looks like I can put a little more tension on there. I was trying to be really careful because I didn't want the stem to snap. But look how pretty. It has this red tint to it, and I just think it's beautiful. Here's our little oak tree also from my cousins from Kentucky. I should mention, the catalpa tree is from our really good friends in Kentucky. The maple tree and this oak tree are from my cousins. Thank you so much for sending me home with trees from Kentucky. They're beautiful. And our peach trees that we grew from seed. We need to mow, don't mind. And there is an ice cream bucket. That's a little embarrassing. Here's the peach tree. This is the cherry tree that we brought from Kentucky from my friend. I'm gonna leave it because what happened with a pear tree this year, it was completely eaten down by something and it's growing, and I'll show you that right now. This one's doing the best. It's just looking so pretty. This one, Ryan accidentally chopped with a weed eater and it came back too. So that's pretty funny. So here's the little pear tree that was completely gone, and it started coming back this year. So that's why I'm not gonna give up hope on that cherry. As long as the roots are doing good, it appears that things will grow back. And the other pear tree that I have. Now I think this year, I let it grow with 2 stems this year, but I'm thinking I'm gonna choose the healthiest stem and trim off the thinner one. I don't know. I kind of thought when it's a big tree, it'd be nice to have double. But I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have trimmed it that way. But this one is doing really well as well. And this lovely peach tree that my in-laws gave me is doing so well. I believe this is a Georgia peach here. This one is not one from seed. This is one from the feed store. So it is actually a true tree. And we took everyone's advice and trimmed up the bottom, and I think that just made it, it's just so pretty. I love how this tree looks. Thank you for your advice on that. Thank you so much for coming along on this garden tour this lovely July day. We're so grateful that you have tuned into our channel and are following along with us and sharing with us our journey in our life. It's very amazing to me that we have made so many good friends and through this social media platform, and we're very excited to share everything that we're learning. And I just want to say thank you again for watching. If you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe. We would appreciate that, and we are grateful for your love and support. All right, bye. Okay, I completely forgot to film the peppers. I am gonna do that right now. This is actually the best my peppers have ever done. So I'm sad that I can't believe I completely forgot it. They're just tucked back here over by the chicken coop. I have a couple cactus right there getting full sun. So what I did this year is I put my spiciest peppers in the corner, and it comes out to least spiciest here to this corner. And all along the edges are least spicy peppers, just in case. So these are all sweet peppers, just in case my kids come out and like, ooh, a pepper, and grab a snack. Yeah, that way they don't get a surprise. So we're doing an experiment. We put the Epsom salt on these 6 peppers here, and we're gonna see if they look better than the rest of the pepper bed in a little bit. They all look really good to me right now. I've never had peppers do this well. And that might sound silly because some of them look a little small, but really the leaves look good. They're actually producing peppers. So let's go down the row. Right here, these two peppers are carnival bell peppers. So I think that means they're going to be all different colors. So it'll be a surprise of what color I get. But it has some peppers on it. And just, I know there's a little insect damage, but look how beautiful these leaves are. Dark green, just so pretty. Next, I have golden bell peppers. And these both have peppers on them. Pretty big too. And then over here is red bell peppers. So these two should be red bell peppers. Then the next row is a green bell pepper. Sweet banana pepper. Ancho pepper. Here's the ancho peppers. They're kind of pointy. This is also an ancho pepper. And these are the jalafuego peppers. They're supposed to be very large jalapenos good for stuffing like cheeses and stuff. Right here is a lunchbox red pepper. And I'm seeing a bunch of little peppers on there. Really cool. Then we have let's see. This is a Paseo Bajío pepper. Then lemon drop, lemon drop, lemon drop, and a peppercini pepper. Here is an Ajvarski pepper. I'm a little sad. I was hoping for a bigger plant than this. I hope that it will continue to grow. Another Paseo Bajío pepper. And then a Serrano. This one, I love how it looks. It's just bushy and very small leaves. Then a peppercini, a jalapeno, which I've already got a first harvest off of this. And it's putting off another harvest, and a habanero plant. It's making a comeback. It was looking really, really sad. We were overwatering everything. It was not good. So don't overwater. Then two peppers died here, so I put marigolds. And I have a cayenne pepper, cayenne, and another Ajvarski pepper, which is also making a comeback. This last row, the water was settling back there and it was just mush. And I noticed that it was mush because it smelled so bad, like something rotting. And so the plants were struggling in that one. So you can see the water was draining to there and it was just a muddy mess. And anyway, so now we water them every 3 days, I want to say. And they are doing much better with that watering schedule. It was too much water and it wasn't good. Well, if you stayed this long, thank you. And I hope that you got to enjoy the pepper section of the garden. I hope that you stayed this long and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching. Bye.